Welcome to our 10th week. Regarding happiness. And this is our second week discussing mindfulness. One of the ingredients of happiness is mindfulness. And last week we spoke about two items. We spoke about focusing, being present, and focusing on the air that goes in your lungs and that goes out your lungs. And just one second. And as well, noticing the food as you eat it and as you digest it, so on and so forth, as you chew on it. And this week, we will just have Facebook because YouTube is not loading, but that's okay. Let's go on. Wherever you are, you're outdoors, you are indoors, stop the world for a few minutes and notice what's around you. So now we're going to use our eyes to be present. Notice the things that are around you. Now, we are so, if I could say, in the air, we are so all over the place that there's many things that we have been in eye contact with for months or years that we still don't notice the details. That's how we're not here and we're not there. Take any item, whatever it is, pick up anything around you on the table and just look at it and notice as many details as possible. If it's a dollar bill, if it's a watch, if it's a pen, any item, notice what's written on it. Just imagine someone is going to give you $100 or $1,000 for each and every item that you noticed. Suddenly you focus. And when you focus on what your eyes see around you, what happens is you become very calm and very relaxed. Because like we spoke about last week, you are in the present. And when, let me just close this thing, it's making me crazy. Let me just close it, okay. You are in the present. And that makes you happy. That's tranquil when you're present, not by running and doing and coming and going. So spending a minute or 5 and noticing is something very extremely useful. If it's in nature, if it's even while you're driving, or while you're sitting in a room where you tell yourself, I want to do this exercise for 5 minutes, because in those 5 minutes, you will be calmer, happier, inner peace, and tranquil. Let's go to another thing that could ground us, that's very, very important and that can make us happy. And to be mindful of what you're feeling. Now, this is huge. We could spend hours and hours just one second. This could be hours and hours. Sorry. To talk about the idea of the feelings. And before I start how to teach you how to be present and mindful about your feelings, just imagine, if you're a parent, even if you're not a parent, you can imagine. Imagine your 4-year-old is trying to get your attention and they say, Daddy, I want to tell you something, And you go, okay, and you walk away or you look at your phone. Mommy, I just want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. Please. I just want to tell you something. And you just walk away. You walk away. What do you think is going to happen to that child? That child is just going to continue chasing you. Now, if this child is not listened to, and you're ignoring this child for minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, they basically shut down. What their brain tells them is that you can't reach out. So they go into their own world. Now, but they must have your nurture. They must have your validation at that age as a child. They must have your nurture. So the fact that you're running away and you're ignoring them, At first they're going to have tantrums. At first they're going to yell. At first they're going to throw things. At first they're going to get very, very excited. But sadly, after a while, they give up. And today's science knows that children that were neglected when they were babies, already when they're babies, when they cry and cry and cry, no one comes to them, they stop trusting. When they get older, they stop asking people. They're scared they're going to be rejected. And these people could have been technically in foster homes, or let's say the parents have changed when they got older, and everything seems so calm, but the fact that their brain was neglected as a child, as an infant, they don't trust. So the analogy is what we started with. I went a little bit off. The analogy is of the child that you are ignoring. Why are we unhappy? One of the we're on the 10th talk already, and we have a few more to go. One of the big reasons, as we said, there's a lot of ingredients. One of the big reasons, we do not listen to our own emotions. Now, we don't have to do what our emotions tells us. But what's important is to validate the emotions. That's a whole topic for itself. I'm writing a book about it, that there's 7 managers within the brain. The 2 main managers is logic and emotions. But there's another 5. So people get confused because if the emotions tell them something, they say, no, that's not what I'm planning to do, so I better not listen. No, you need to listen and be aware and be mindful of your emotions. Because there's that many emotions we can suppress. And once we suppress and suppress and suppress, that's when it erupts. That's when or erupts, or that's when we go into depression, and that's when we cannot be with happiness, because we have suppressed. And this is very, very deep. I'll try to be brief about this emotions because I want to finish it today. When your emotions is feeling fear, or whatever it's feeling, especially by the end of the day, or when you have a chance, take some time for your emotions and listen. Best thing is to write, to journal. That's one thing. Women are way greater than men, and I think men should be doing it as well. Write down the emotions. When you ignore your own emotions, one part of you is suppressing and hating another part of you. When you do listen, journal, or write down these emotions, you feel way better. I know for myself, this happens once in a few months, that I get overwhelmed because I wasn't mindful, or there was too many events happening at once, and I say, before I'm going to go through my day, or before I continue, I'm going to write down. And I do have a journal. And when I start writing, it's always the same story, where I think I have 1 or 2 things I'm upset about, and I just want to write details. The last few times I did it, there was about 15 things. And as I'm writing, see, once you open up your heart starts talking. Once you listen to that child, and once the child trusts you, the child doesn't stop, and maybe has a few hours of stories to tell you. Now, when I thought I had 2, 3 emotions that I wasn't listening to, and when I start writing, suddenly there's 15, there's 17, there's 10. You go, wow. And what always happens after you write it? You feel way better. Why do you feel better? Because they were validated. It's like I started to talk. When you validate a child and you listen to the child calms down. By telling the child it's nothing, or by ignoring the child, you are just provoking the child to get more angry, or eventually just to shut down. Now, there's 2 reasons, and we have time, so I could relax. Now we have 10 minutes to discuss something interesting. There are 2 reasons why we do not listen to our emotions, why we're not aware of our emotions, why we don't deal with it. And as a result, just like we have our arteries gets clogged up, that causes us a heart attack, these emotions get clogged up, and it causes us depression, the lack of happiness. It causes us to shut down. It causes us to looking for the word, to disconnect from people within relationships, because if we don't have a relationship with ourselves, we don't have a relationship with others. Let me say this again. When we do not have a relationship with ourselves, and I'm referring to our emotions connected, we cannot have. So when someone comes with all emotions, we just get overwhelmed and we push them away. We give excuses why we're too busy and we can't listen to them. It's not because we're busy. It's not because we can't listen to them. Because if we're busy, we look them in the eyes and we say, I love you. I want to listen to you. I want to support you. I want to hug you. I want to be there for you. But let me finish my 2 hours and I'll be totally with you, or else I'll be lying if I'll listen to you now. But if you notice, those people that give excuses for 50 years, not for 15 minutes, because they do not have a relationship with themselves. They do not listen to their own emotions. They don't validate their emotions. Why? 2 reasons. One, because hundreds of years ago we didn't know what emotions are. So we just made fun of it. And if you make fun of people enough, they just go back in. And as pathetic as we were, or we still are, we think when we hide emotions, it disappears. All right, you see this watch? You want to see disappear? It disappeared. Right, tell me all about it. A piece of paper doesn't make it disappear. You could cover it, but it doesn't disappear. So what happened was, hundreds of years ago, because psychology was not developed the way it is today, we just made fun of it. We just suppressed it. We didn't know what to do with it. We got overwhelmed. We were scared. So the myth, the nonsense, the ignorance still continues. Reason number 2, I forgot. I know reason number 2. I just reminded myself. Reason number 2 is, and this is what we weren't taught. This will be a lot. I'll have a lot in my book that discusses the logic and the emotions. I want to do something new in life. Logically, I worked it all out. I did my homework. It makes sense. Because it's something new, because it's something I didn't do, of course there's fear, and that's healthy. That's not unhealthy. That's healthy. Now, what we weren't taught is that we could have the fear. Not only we could have it, we could listen to it, validate it, understand it, hug it, write it down, journal, and we could still give it this imaginary ice cream with some candy and say, I love you. I'm going to do what you don't want to do, what you're scared, and I understand you. But I'm going to come back, and you're going to see how good you're going to feel, because all new things are tough. When you make a logical decision to go ahead and do something, that doesn't mean emotions has to agree. On the contrary, emotions should not agree. Only because you drink water doesn't mean fire should not exist. Only because you have a beautiful romantic fire, it doesn't mean water should not exist. They can exist together, but of course they exist. And they're contrary, and they're both very, very important. So we all are so confused. So what we do is, because we don't know that logic and emotions can and should be contrary, we take out our rifle and we start shooting emotions, and we say, oh, shut up already, or be quiet, like you. Oh, every time I want to be successful with something, you always put doubts in my mind. You put fear, like, shut up, I don't want to listen to you. By the way, when I just covered my watch, nothing happens. The watch stays the same. You try to tell emotions to shut up, it's just like telling your 4-year-old to be quiet. You're not going to listen. Their intensity to get your attention only intensifies. It just gets stronger and stronger. And within humans, that's what happens. And everyone runs to the doctor. My back is hurting, my throat is hurting. And we know today's science shows us that all our physical pain, or 97% of it, is all because clogged up emotions. There's some emotions that will clog up your back, some your knees, some your head, some your neck, muscle spasms, you name it. Gain weight, gain loss, can sleep, could sleep, nauseous, not nauseous. We clog up our emotions and it's still there. We cannot kill it. Now that's the reason why we're not present with our emotions. Like I just gave one example from the 500 examples. We're only sticking to one for today because we're not going to be able to give more than one. Think of anything that you have fear. Try it out. Don't listen. Don't trust me. Try it out on your own. Anything that you want to do, that you made a concrete decision to do, and you have another voice, write down the other voice. Write down the contrary voice. It's a feeling. Listen to it. Actually, sometimes it has good ideas. Sometimes it's going to tell you, ask one more opinion. Or sometimes after you did all your homework, it's still going to be fearful. The body is very cautious. And that's why it's always going to make noise. Like we spoke in another talk, that if you take a match, strike a match, and blow it out right next to a smoke detector, the smoke detector will go off. Because that's the job. The smoke detector is not there to evaluate if there's a real fire or a fake fire. If there's a smoke from a match or a smoke of the house burning down, the alarm goes off exactly the same. And we're not even talking about PTSD. We're talking about regular fear. You want to be happy? Want to be tranquil? If you never did it, do it once a month. Do it once a month. It's hard for me to say it. Then start with once a week. You're so important. You to you are the most important entity in the world. And if you don't find yourself important, you will not be happy in life. You could push through another day, another week, with another pill, with another drug, with another show, with another movie, with another book, with just to push off, push, like we're pushing towards the we're just pushing our days to our grave instead of living each day 86,400 seconds with our trillions of cells that are working so beautiful in harmony. And eventually it's going to become a regular exercise. When I take 9-10 hour trips on the highway, people say, oh, who are you traveling with? I say, with myself. I never travel by myself. Stand by someone, you're next to them. If you're not connected, you're by yourself. When you are connected, you're with yourself. I never travel by myself. I travel with myself. The 10 hours that passes by, it's like, it's like I don't have to have 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here. I could do so much mindfulness that if I drive from Toronto to New York and I go, whoa, what am I doing here? And there's a certain fear that I fell asleep on the wheel, but I was wide awake. The sun was shining. And I know I was awake because I didn't know I did all the right turns and I went on the right highways. But we drive with our subconscious mind, but my conscious mind does go to all these places, things that I notice, how I feel. And we're going to go next week deeper and deeper just within the feelings, or just within, we're supposed to discuss it this week and we ran out of time, about when you notice stuff. You might have never have done this in your life, but you could, let's say, I'm going to give it away today. When you look at a color, or when you look at an item, besides you looking at the details, and we'll discuss it next week, you say, how does it make me feel? You never thought about make me feel. You know, companies spend hundreds and thousands, if not millions of dollars to market certain things in certain colors because that will make people buy. They wouldn't spend millions of dollars if all this stuff wasn't true. And study after study by the thousands of people doing or acting in certain ways based on the colors, based on the presentation. So you never have done it. You might be 20, you might be 60 years old. You never sat down in your life to look at certain colors. Sometimes you have to breathe, close your eyes, be with yourself. How does this make me feel? How does that make me feel? I'm going to talk from my experience, and I hope you'll feel that way too one day. The deepest pleasure, joy, happiness, tranquil feeling in life is being present. It's just being. Too much of our lives we are doing. Doing is technically important to live. It's not living. Being is living. Have yourself a wonderful and delightful evening. Thanks for checking in. All the best. Bye.